call. Big day for me. This is my 365th day of going live on YouTube. What started as helping a friend get his act together, as well as somebody questioning whether I actually got up at 4:30 or started my day at 4:30. That was the beginning of the 4:30 cycle challenge. I'm into my 5th year of doing it. This is 365 days straight. The QR code will get you to the tracker. If you want to learn more about it, go to 430cycle.com. It was a pretty interesting nonstop. I was like, I've been doing this. I can do it. There was a little question like, could I actually do it? Could I technically make it happen? I mean, I was going through security a couple of days ago. There was one day I was actually sleeping in the back of my we have a 4Runner at the beach. There's so many people in the house. I said, you know what? I'm going to go sleep in the car. I went live from the back of a 4Runner. I did have a couple technical issues in there, which made a couple calls, a little later than 4:30, but I made every single call. And the only thing that kept me from doing it were a few technical issues. I did a couple of them because so many people are in our beach place in front of Wawa, getting coffee early. And then, but what's pretty cool, and good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, man.
So what
I
did
remember that when you were at the beach place.
Yeah, there were a few of them. I've been on vacation. I've been in Vegas twice. And I haven't missed. And so what did that get me? So the number one thing it got me, and I got a spreadsheet. I've tracked pretty much everything or the big things. 2,497 hours with Flynn, or 104 24-hour days I've spent with my son this past year while doing this work in the morning. So essentially 1,095 hours or 45 full days of work I've done in the last year in the morning. 45 24-hour days. If that was 8-hour days, that would be roughly 150, just short of 150 8-hour work days I've got done in the morning. Pretty cool. So what did I do? So at the beginning of the year, I stopped writing my 4th book because I wanted to learn some things and go super deep. I spent over 325 hours on learning pay-per-click ads and Facebook ads. I spent, roughly 240 hours. I got hired to do when I was going super deep with pay-per-click and Facebook ads. I got approached to do a consulting project that paid me $50,000 to help with pay-per-click ads and Facebook ads for a auction website, which is pretty cool. So that I got paid to actually continue to go super deep, and that was roughly like 240 hours. I did 182 blog posts. Roughly 100 hours, give or take. The blog posts today have a $15,300 a month value that multiplied out for the year is now at $183,600 a year in traffic that's just growing. So that's pretty cool. Before I did that, I built 1,000 web pages, which was, roughly like 150 hours of creating community pages. Most websites might have 20, might have 10, might have 50. I have 1,000. So that's pretty cool. Spent roughly 150 hours editing YouTube videos for our YouTube channel. We launched over 245 videos. And then I spent roughly like 160 hours on just normal administration work as I moved my model from 5 employees to mostly, transaction type services, paying for support based on our transactions, which scales nicely in the down market, which we went into. and made things a lot easier. Continued to see a profitable business when a lot of people that had those, heavy employee costs, heavy fixed costs, really sting over the last year. So yeah, there's real tangible results. The biggest dollar value is the SEO traffic, which is now annually at 183,000. My goal is to get it to 240,000, but I'm real happy with where it's at. So that's what a year gets you.
That's awesome.
It is great stuff.
Yeah. And a couple of those are clearly connected to one another, right? Like, so building out the pages as well as the blog post, but mainly, would you say the blog post obviously is what gets the pages ranked better?
Well, it's the blog posts themselves that do the ranking. The pages you can use as links, internal links. On a blog post, you can have as many internal links to your own content on your site as you want. It's only good to have one, maybe two, to external sites. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Yeah, so it's and I've probably shown this before, but this is just a great example of compounding. This is pretty much where it all started, and then so every day I check this, and it stalled at 14,000 something for a while. It's just stalled in the 14,000s. Now it's finally climbing up again, but yeah, pretty cool.
That was cool, man. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, the biggest thing is all the time I've spent with Flynn, over 100 full days. So that's, nobody can take that from me. I think about it a lot, like how to put it in perspective. Like, has it cost me money getting home at 5 o'clock every day? 100%. I mean, to put it bluntly, I think it's, the best when I really like looked at it, like how much stuff I had to refer off to team members and things like that I like doing anyway. But, it's probably anywhere in the $75,000, $100,000 a year range of, reduced income. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's the time with him. I think at the end of the day, I hope, you hope that equity and that you put into a relationship with a kid. It's my first time, so I'm not missing that. I was, I have a famous, I have a relative, he's passed away, but my grandma's sister's son was a guy named Ron Rocz, and he was the founding president of Apple Records that he set up for the Beatles. And he also managed the Beatles for a couple of years. And, he hit the pinnacle of what somebody would do in that profession, like, manage the Beatles, like launch their record label. But he was also, he was also like he got, basically, if you Google him, he had problems. He drank too much. He was, loved drugs. Married to Joan Collins. They had a kid together. Long story short, like he fumbled. But I really, when I was out in England last week, I thought I would want to go check out Apple Records. And I was like, I've never done like a real deep dive on this guy. And the more I learned about him, I was like, God, he sounds like, like somebody that just really fumbled some really good opportunities one way or another, whether it was for good reason or not, that he got fired after 2 years from the Beatles. They actually hired this guy, Alan Klein, who was the Rolling Stones manager, to become their manager. And it was like they had a squabble. Long story short, one of those days I was out in London, it was, okay, I'm going to go look into this, long lost relative that has a lot of really cool history with the Beatles and Apple Records, or go to the zoo with Flynn, or go to the aquarium with Flynn. And I mean, it took me about a split second to say, there's no way to go, for nostalgia's sake, go look at Apple Records and steal that time from Flynn. So it's really like galvanized the way that I look about. I would never steal that time from Flynn. Who cares? I mean, it's a really interesting thing, but having a lifestyle, he needed a lifestyle framework. Having a lifestyle framework that prevents you from, messing things up like it seems like he did as he got into that world, So that was my whole thing. It's easy. Like, that's why I don't go to these like awards events, or I think I'm pretty done being on panel, like traveling across the country to be on a panel where I'm not getting paid. I've done that a handful of times. Like, why would I take that time from Flynn? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So the more I've done it, the easier it is to really look at something and say, God, this has to be like really, and nothing has done it yet. This has to be, twice I spoke at some events, Ron, that I saw you at on panels, or actually one was kind of a weird thing. Me and another guy did it, but yeah, man. So I'm cool. I'm happy.
That's awesome.
That is. That's good stuff.
And you too. Oh man. So yeah, I looked at the calendar today. I was like, oh wow, today's 365 days.
There you go. Yeah. It's amazing what you can accomplish. You ever see the pictures of like when they look back at like history, like where they look back at, like, I don't know, cities, like a picture of Shanghai, like over like a 20-year period. And, they just show how the landscape was completely changed. It's like what people can estimate they'll overestimate what they can do in a short period of time, but considerably underestimate what they can do in a long period of time. And so they usually never start, but, congratulations on 5 years and 365 of going live.
Yeah, it's just a normal thing now, it just is what it is. It works. I often think about, am I going to change this? And I always get back to like, why would I, and that's the thing. If you can, we're kind of talking about yesterday, if you can hold yourself accountable to creating the time, you can backfill it with anything. You can learn, you can do anything you want with that time. And that's kind of, like this year I'm going into some new things, and I'm gonna, hopefully be successful in a number of different things, learning Spanish, being more relaxed with meditation, getting into the CRM, also finding acquisitions for our development company. Like, that's something that is a time consuming thing that if you're not looking and researching and, doing numbers to figure out, that's going to be one of the big things this year. I don't think I've spoken about yet is, as our industry kind of evolves, getting more into the development company, buying, rehabbing, fixing up long-term hold properties, which I don't really enjoy, but it's a great money maker,
Yeah.
Well, Ron, the one thing that's been really helpful with the start at 4:30. And then, one thing in particular is that the difference from waking up at 5:30 most of the time or 6 o'clock and knowing that you're just starting at 4:30 is, Ron 2.0. He mentioned that, schedule, man, sometimes with the kids, just in going to bed at 12 or 12:30 because, somebody's got to pick up the kids and at this age and then still doing it. At times it's been like, you know what? If I didn't have the initial accountability, I may just wake up at 5:30 or 6, and the what I found is that because I committed to, to being ready to go at 4:30 and at times feeling like, I'm just going to go back. I could just go back to bed. I haven't. And then I've gotten in that additional time. For me, it hasn't been a lot of like the moonshot idea type of ability. It's more been personal growth, administrative growth, just lifestyle framework so I can spend more time and not compromise with the kids and my wife. So it's been a huge help and just remove some stress of like making sure like you with Flynn, you're not compromising that time. this additional time has allowed me to focus on getting that personal growth and business administrative work. So that way my day is not compromised. And most importantly, I have the time for the kids. So there's no, fear of missing time. So that's been where it's been very helpful for me.
We got off the call yesterday, and Flynn got up 5 minutes later. And that's what I've always said, that morning time also makes me available for him if he gets up. His schedule's all whacked. So I had him literally from 4:25 to like 9:30. and that's why I always said, like, if like that's my number one piece of work. Like if he gets up early, I got him. And my wife was all in disarray, and because she's not usually up that early, and I was like, I got him, go back to bed, and and then I went on and I did my work later at 9:30. But yeah, I mean, that being available for family duties or kid duties is like, that's the biggest thing. That's the thing. The over 100 days I spent with him is the whole goal. And then how do I get all this other stuff in where I don't have to steal time out of my work day, and that's a classic selling thing, right, Ron? Or any of you guys, like Rob, you want to be selling during the day. You don't want to be working on projects during your, your typical 8-hour day. You don't want to be doing dollar producing activities. This stuff produces, but it's more a long compound effect thing. And this framework's been great. And the other thing too, I'm excited in, there's going to be a lot of, I understand there's been some really good TV over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't watch TV. So there's all these seasons of content that at some point I'll watch. I'm excited about, but I don't need to see it now. By the time I get back to watching TV, I'll feel like I'll have 5-6 year backlog of stuff to watch.
Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah, Happy Days was pretty good, Ron. We didn't miss that one. And
some of my best work. My earliest work was some of my best. We hit our time. We were, we've actually gone well over our time. But anyways, I hit the year. That was actually the original goal. Can I do this a year? Like that was with the YouTube. It was like, I'll commit to a year. I'm going to commit to another year right now, and easily, I feel like I can easily do it, unless I run into a couple technical issues.
Well, we'll wait. I'll wait for the 720 merch instead of the 365. I'm just kidding.
See you guys tomorrow.
Okay.